If there is one truth you must understand today, it is this: your life does not change by chance. It changes by decision, not tomorrow, not when conditions are perfect. It changes the moment you decide who you are and what you will no longer tolerate. The greatest advice you will ever hear is simple, but it is not easy. Take full command of your mind, because the mind you fail to control will be controlled by fear, distraction, and the opinions of others, and a life guided by outside forces can never become a life of greatness. Most people wait for confidence before they act. That is backward. Confidence is not a gift, it is a reward. It comes after action, after discipline, after you move forward while still uncertain. Faith is not the absence of fear, it is the decision to act in spite of it. Understand this clearly. Every achievement you admire began as a thought that was protected, repeated, and acted upon, and every failure you regret began the same way, through neglected thoughts allowed to grow unchecked. What you think consistently, you eventually become. Here is advice few people follow, yet everyone needs. Stop negotiating with your weaknesses. You cannot build a powerful life while making excuses for habits that drain you. Discipline is not punishment, it is self-respect in action. Each time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen the identity of a winner. Persistence is the great divider between ordinary lives and extraordinary ones. Talent fades without it. Luck collapses without it. But persistence, focused, intelligent persistence, creates inevitability. Those who succeed are not always the smartest or the fastest, but they are the ones who refuse to quit when progress feels invisible. Another truth you must accept: for you are not punished by life for your failures, you are rewarded according to your level of responsibility. The moment you stop blaming circumstances, people, or the past, you reclaim power. Br. Responsibility is not a burden. It is the doorway to freedom. Dr. Guard your environment as you would guard your future, because they are the same thing. The conversations you entertain, the content you consume, the people you allow close to you are silently shaping your beliefs every single day. If you want a different life, you must immerse yourself in different influences. Fear will appear the moment you step toward something meaningful. That is not a warning to retreat. That is confirmation you are moving in the right direction. Courage is not loud. It is the quiet decision to move forward one more step while your heart is still racing. Time does not respond to wishful thinking. Br. It responds to focused action repeated daily. Small, disciplined efforts, applied consistently, outperform dramatic effort applied occasionally. Greatness is built in routines no one applauds. And here is the final, most powerful advice you'll ever hear: for master yourself and you master your destiny. Control your thoughts, your habits, your reactions, and your time. Br. And life will have no choice but to rise to meet you. Bar. You do not need permission to begin. You do not need perfect conditions. Bar. You need a decision that becomes non-negotiable. Dr. Decide today to think differently. Decide today to act deliberately. Dr. Decide today to become the person your future demands, because the best advice you'll ever hear means nothing, unless you live it. Decide once, commit forever, because the moment you decide with absolute certainty, hesitation loses its power over you, and life begins to rearrange itself in response to your clarity. Most people drift not because they lack ability, but because they never draw a final line between what they will tolerate and what they will no longer accept. A divided mind produces a divided life, and greatness demands a decision so firm that retreat is no longer an option. When you decide once, you remove confusion. When you commit forever, you activate momentum. The world does not reward intention, it rewards resolve. Wishes are common, discipline is rare. Everyone dreams, but only a few decide. Decision is not a thought, it is an act of authority over your future. The moment you decide, you silence doubt. The moment you commit, you transform effort into power. Until then, talent leaks away through excuses, and time slips past unnoticed. Clarity is the foundation of all achievement, and clarity is born the instant you stop wavering. Your life moves in the direction of your strongest decision, not your strongest emotio. Emotions change daily, but a decision anchored in purpose reshapes your habits, your choices, and your identity. Most people fail quietly because they keep their options open, always leaving space to quit. Commitment closes the door behind you. It forces growth. It demands adaptation. It turns obstacles into instructors rather than enemies. Understand this deeply. Indecision is a form of self-betrayal. Every time you delay, you teach your mind that comfort matters more than progress. Every time you hesitate, you strengthen the habit of retreat. But when you commit fully, your mind begins to search for solutions instead of escape routes. Power flows where attention is focused, and commitment focuses attention like nothing else can. The disciplined mind does not wait for confidence. Confidence follows action, not the other way around. Waiting to feel ready is the excuse of the uncommitted. Those who win decide first, then grow into the decision. They act while uncertain, move while afraid, and learn while failing. Commitment gives courage a place to stand. You must accept responsibility for everything you allow to continue. Life improves the moment you stop negotiating with weakness. Discipline is not restriction, it is direction. It is the ability to say no to what weakens you so you can say yes to what elevates you. When you commit forever, discipline stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like identity. Persistence is the natural outcome of commitment. When quitting is no longer an option, endurance becomes instinct. The mind adapts to whatever standard you set. Set a low standard and life shrinks to match it. Set a high standard and life stretches under pressure. The pressure is not punishment, it is preparation. Your environment will test your decision. Distractions will tempt you. Opinions will challenge you. Comfort will whisper lies, but commitment creates immunity. When your purpose is clear, noise becomes irrelevant. Focus sharpens, energy aligns, progress accelerates. You stop explaining yourself and start executing. Fear will appear the moment you step into commitment. That is not a signal to stop. It is proof that you are stepping beyond the limits of your past. Fear fades when faced directly, but it grows when avoided. Commitment forces confrontation, and confrontation builds strength. Every time you move forward despite fear, you reclaim authority over your mind. Time respects commitment. It multiplies consistent action and exposes half-hearted effort. Small actions, repeated daily, compound into massive results when guided by unwavering commitment. There is no shortcut to mastery, but there is a direct path. Decide, commit, repeat. Over time, effort becomes excellence, and excellence becomes reputation. The highest form of power is self-mastery. Control your thoughts and you control your actions. Control your actions and you control your outcomes. A committed mind does not drift. It directs. It does not react. It chooses. Life responds to those who move with certainty. Decide once, commit forever, and let your actions speak louder than your doubts. Let discipline replace motivation. Let purpose replace fear. Let persistence replace excuses. The world yields to those who know where they are going and refuse to turn back. Your mind is the battlefield, and every single day a silent war is being fought over your future, your focus, and your identity. The outcome of your life is decided not by what happens to you, but by what you allow to dominate your thoughts when no one is watching. Victory is never accidental. It is claimed by those who learn to command their inner world before trying to control the outer one. The mind you neglect becomes a weapon used against you, but the mind you discipline becomes the greatest force you will ever possess. Every thought is either building you or breaking you. There is no neutral ground. Ideas enter quietly, repeat themselves patiently, and eventually harden into beliefs. Those beliefs shape decisions, and decisions shape destiny. Most people lose the battle before they ever realize a war exists because they allow fear, doubt, and distraction to move in unchallenged. A mind without direction is easily conquered. Understand this truth clearly. You do not rise to the level of your hopes. You fall to the level of your dominant thoughts. What you rehearse mentally becomes your reality. If you repeatedly imagine limitation, failure will feel familiar. If you repeatedly imagine strength, action will follow naturally. The mind does not distinguish between what is real and what is consistently imagined. It obeys repetition. Discipline begins in thought before it ever appears in action. You cannot build a powerful life with a weak internal dialogue. The words you speak to yourself set the tone for your behavior. When your inner voice is sharp, focused, and demanding, your actions follow with precision. When your inner voice is careless and forgiving of weakness, progress collapses quietly. Most people try to change their lives without changing their thinking. They seek new results while clinging to old mental habits. This creates frustration, not transformation. The battlefield must be cleared before progress can advance. Doubt must be confronted. Excuses must be exposed. Fear must be challenged, not avoided. Mental strength is forged through deliberate confrontation with discomfort. Focus is a weapon. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. Distraction is not harmless. It is strategic sabotage. Every unnecessary thought drains momentum. Every scattered intention weakens force. The disciplined mind chooses what to think about and rejects everything else. This is not suppression, it is command. Fear lives in the imagination, not in reality. It grows when fed with unanswered questions and worst-case scenarios. Action starves fear. The moment you move forward, uncertainty loses its grip. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the refusal to let fear dictate your decisions. A trained mind recognizes fear as a signal, not a verdict. Responsibility strengthens the mind. The moment you accept that your thoughts are your responsibility, excuses lose their power. Blame weakens focus. Ownership sharpens it. When you stop accusing circumstances and start commanding your mindset, progress accelerates. Freedom begins when you realize no one else controls your thoughts but you. Repetition is the mind's training ground. What you think once has little power. What you think daily becomes law. Habits are built mentally long before they appear physically. Consistent mental discipline creates consistency in action. Over time, effort turns into instinct and discipline turns into identity. The strongest minds are not the loudest. They are calm, intentional, and relentless. They do not react to every impulse. They choose their response. Emotional control is mental dominance in motion. When you master your reactions, nothing outside you can destabilize your direction. Environment influences the battlefield. The content you consume, the conversations you entertain, and the people you surround yourself with either reinforce strength or feed weakness. A disciplined mind protects its inputs. You cannot expect clarity while feeding confusion. You cannot expect confidence while absorbing negativity. Mental mastery demands daily practice, not occasional motivation, not temporary enthusiasm, but consistent command. Each day is an opportunity to train your focus, refine your beliefs, and reinforce your purpose. Progress is not dramatic, it is deliberate. Your mind is the battlefield, and the war is decided by what you allow to remain. Guard your thoughts, direct your focus, challenge weakness, reinforce strength. Victory begins the moment you take full command of your inner world and refuse to surrender it. Faith precedes results because nothing meaningful ever appears in the physical world until it is first accepted as real in the mind. Before achievement shows evidence, before progress becomes visible, before success leaves proof, there must be an unshakable inner knowing that refuses to depend on circumstances. Faith is not blind hope or passive wishing. It is a deliberate decision to move forward with certainty even when the outcome has not yet revealed itself. Without faith, effort collapses at the first sign of resistance. Most people wait for proof before they believe, but proof only comes to those who believe first. This is the great separation between those who advance and those who remain stuck. Results follow conviction, not the other way around. When belief is weak, action is hesitant. When belief is strong, action becomes decisive. Faith supplies the energy that sustains effort when motivation fades. Faith trains the mind to expect success rather than fear failure. Expectation shapes behavior. When you expect progress, you notice opportunities. When you expect defeat, you magnify obstacles. The mind moves toward what it consistently anticipates. Faith programs anticipation, and anticipation directs action. This is not fantasy, it is mental discipline. Doubt is not a sign of intelligence, it is often a habit of protection against disappointment. But protection has a cost. Doubt limits reach, dulls persistence, and convinces you to retreat before growth begins. Faith, on the other hand, expands capacity. It stretches identity. It demands that you become equal to the vision you hold. Growth is uncomfortable because faith requires you to act before you feel ready. Every great pursuit begins in uncertainty. If certainty were available at the start, faith would not be necessary. Faith exists precisely because outcomes are unknown. It is the bridge between intention and reality. Those who refuse to step onto that bridge remain where they are, not because they lack ability, but because they lack belief strong enough to move them forward. Action fueled by faith carries a different energy. It is steady, not frantic, focused, not scattered, persistent, not desperate. Faith removes the need for constant reassurance. You continue because you know, not because you see. This is why consistency belongs to believers, not doubters. Doubt demands immediate reward. Faith understands delayed results. The mind must be trained to hold belief through silence. There will be periods where nothing appears to be working, where effort seems invisible, where progress feels absent. This is why, ere most people quit, they interpret silence as failure. Faith interprets silence as preparation. Roots grow before trees break the surface. What is forming beneath awareness determines what will eventually appear. Responsibility strengthens faith. When you accept full ownership of your thoughts, habits, and responses, belief becomes stable. Blame weakens faith because it shifts power outward. Ownership reinforces faith because it keeps power within. When you know your actions matter, belief becomes practical, not emotional. Faith does not eliminate fear, but it places fear in its proper position. Fear becomes information, not instruction. It signals growth, not danger. Faith allows you to move while afraid without allowing fear to dictate direction. Courage is simply faith in motion. Repetition reinforces belief. What you affirm, visualize, and act upon daily becomes internal law. Faith grows through consistency. Each disciplined action becomes evidence to the mind that progress is possible. Over time, belief deepens, effort sharpens, and identity transforms. You begin to operate from expectation rather than reaction. Environment can either weaken or strengthen faith. Constant negativity erodes belief. Repeated exposure to doubt conditions the mind to retreat. A disciplined individual protects belief by choosing influences carefully. Faith is not fragile, but it must be defended. What you allow into your mind determines what your mind allows you to pursue. Faith demands pati. Hence, without passivity. Waiting without working is illusion. Working without belief is exhaustion. Faith aligns patience with effort. You act daily, trust the process, and refuse to abandon the path simply because results are delayed. Time responds to consistency guided by belief. Faith precedes results because belief sets the standard your actions must rise to. When faith is strong, behavior aligns. When behavior aligns, outcomes follow. Nothing external changes until something internal becomes unshakable. The visible world eventually conforms to the convictions you refuse to abandon. Persistence outlasts talent because raw ability means nothing when it is not carried forward by relentless effort and unbreakable resolve. Talent may open a door, but persistence is what keeps you in the room when pressure rises and expectations demand more than potential. History is filled with gifted individuals who began strong and disappeared quietly, not because they lacked skill, but because they lacked the stamina to endure resistance. Progress belongs to those who stay. Talent is common. Commitment is rare. Many are born with natural advantages, but few are willing to work when applause is absent and results are slow. Persistence does not rely on inspiration, it relies on discipline. It shows up regardless of mood. It moves forward regardless of recognition. While talent waits for the perfect moment, persistence creates momentum through imperfect action. Every worthwhile pursuit includes moments when effort seems invisible. These moments expose the difference between interest and commitment. Talent grows impatient when rewards are delayed. Persistence understands that growth happens quietly. It continues through boredom, frustration, and doubt. Over time, what persistence builds becomes stronger than what talent alone can sustain. The world often mistakes early success for long-term capability. Quick wins impress, but endurance determines who remains standing. Persistence compounds. Each repeated effort strengthens skill, sharpens judgment, and builds resilience. Eventually, persistence closes the gap between where you started and where you are capable of going. Talent sets the ceiling, but persistence raises it. Failure is not the enemy of progress, quitting is. Persistent individuals view setbacks as information, not verdicts. They adjust, learn, and continue. Talent, when untrained by adversity, collapses under pressure. Persistence turns adversity into instruction. The ability to continue after disappointment is a form of power no natural gift can replace. Consistency transforms effort into identity. When you persist long enough, discipline becomes automatic. What once required willpower becomes routine. At this point, progress accelerates because resistance no longer drains energy. You are no longer fighting yourself. This is where persistence surpasses talent completely. Confidence grows from evidence, not ego. Persistence creates evidence. Each completed task, each obstacle overcome, each day honored builds proof in the mind. This proof fuels belief. Talent without persistence relies on confidence without foundation. Persistence builds confidence that cannot be shaken because it is earned. The greatest advantage persistence offers is adaptability. Those who persist are forced to evolve. They refine methods, strengthen weaknesses, and develop skills talent never had to learn. Over time, they become more complete, more capable, and more reliable. Persistence creates versatility, and versatility sustains success. Distraction is one of the greatest threats to persistence. Focused effort over time requires resisting comfort and novelty. Talent often seeks stimulation. Persistence values progress. The persistent mind understands that repetition is not limitation, it is mastery in motion. Environment tests persistence. Support fades. Criticism increases. Silence grows loud. Persistent individuals continue without validation. They are driven by internal standards rather than external approval. This independence is strength. It keeps effort alive when encouragement disappears. Time favors those who persist. Effort applied consistently compounds quietly. Results appear suddenly only because persistence has been working unnoticed. What seems like overnight success is usually the reward of long-term endurance. Talent alone rarely survives this timeline. Persistence thrives in it. Persistence does not require brilliance. It requires decision. The decision to continue when stopping would be easier. The decision to try again when failure offers an excuse to quit. The decision to move forward when progress feels slow. Persistence outlasts talent because it refuses to leave. It remains when others retreat. It grows when others stagnate. It endures until effort becomes excellence and intention becomes reality. Responsibility is freedom, because the moment you accept full ownership of your life, you reclaim the power to change it. Nothing liberates you faster than realizing that your thoughts, your actions, and your responses belong to you alone. As long as responsibility is avoided, Freedom remains an illusion. Blame may feel comfortable, but it quietly traps you. Ownership, though demanding, unlocks control. Most people misunderstand responsibility. They see it as weight, as pressure, as something that restricts choice. In truth, responsibility expands choice. When you accept that you are the cause, you also become the solution. Waiting for circumstances to improve is a form of surrender. Taking responsibility is an act of authority. Blame weakens the mind. It shifts attention outward and drains energy. Each excuse teaches the mind that power exists elsewhere. Responsibility does the opposite. It concentrates power inward. The moment you stop explaining and start owning, progress becomes possible. You no longer waste energy justifying the past. You invest it shaping the future. Freedom does not come from having fewer obligations. It comes from mastering the ones you choose. Discipline is the structure that supports freedom. Without discipline, choice collapses into chaos. With discipline, effort becomes intentional and results become predictable. Responsibility creates discipline, and discipline creates momentum. The responsible mind does not wait for motivation. It acts from commitment. Motivation is unreliable. Responsibility is stable. When you hold yourself accountable, regardless of how you feel, consistency emerges. Consistency builds trust within yourself. Self-trust is one of the most powerful forms of freedom because it removes hesitation. Taking responsibility removes the need for permission. You stop waiting for approval, validation, or perfect conditions. You recognize that action is your duty, not someone else's decision. This shift changes everything. You move faster, you think clearer, you act with confidence grounded in ownership. Responsibility sharpens judgment. When outcomes belong to you, choices become deliberate. You stop drifting and start directing. Each decision carries weight, not fear. Fear fades because responsibility replaces uncertainty with clarity. You know that whatever happens, you will handle it. Growth demands responsibility. Without it, lessons are repeated instead of learned. Pain becomes pointless when responsibility is avoided. With responsibility, pain becomes instruction. Failure becomes feedback. Setbacks become stepping stones. Progress accelerates because nothing is wasted. Many people fear responsibility because it removes excuses. Without excuses, there is no place to hide. But there is also no ceiling. Responsibility exposes potential. It forces you to rise to meet your capacity. Pressure is not punishment, it is preparation. Responsibility also strengthens resilience. When you accept ownership, you stop being surprised by difficulty. You expect challenges and prepare for them. This mindset builds endurance. You no longer see obstacles as unfair. You see them as part of the process. This acceptance keeps you moving forward. Freedom grows as responsibility deepens. The more capable you become, the more options you create. Responsibility increases competence, and competence expands opportunity. This is how freedom is built. Skill by skill, decision by decision, the responsible individual does not complain about time, they manage it. They do not complain about circumstances, they adapt. They do not complain about people, they choose wisely. Responsibility simplifies life by eliminating unnecessary struggle. Responsibility is freedom because it returns control to where it belongs. It removes dependence. It strengthens character. It transforms effort into progress. When you fully accept responsibility, you stop being a victim of life and become its author. Environment shapes destiny because no individual grows in isolation from what they repeatedly see, hear, and tolerate. Long before results appear, the surroundings you allow begin shaping your thoughts, your habits, and your expectations. Success or failure is rarely sudden. It is slowly conditioned by environment. What feels normal to you today becomes your standard tomorrow, and standards quietly decide outcomes. Every environment carries instructions. Conversations teach you what to believe. Media teaches you what to desire. People teach you what to accept as possible. Even silence teaches you something. When these influences go unexamined, they program the mind without resistance. Destiny is not only chosen through action, it is conditioned through exposure. Most people underestimate how much their environment influences their behavior. They believe discipline alone will protect them, yet discipline weakens when surrounded by constant distraction. Focus erodes when negativity becomes familiar. Strength fades when weakness is normalized. Environment does not overpower instantly. It wears you down gradually. Your mind absorbs what surrounds it. Repeated messages become internal dialogue. Over time, you begin to think thoughts that were never originally yours. This is why environment must be chosen deliberately. If you do not design your surroundings, they will design you. Growth demands distance from what limits you. Certain places, conversations, and routines carry the energy of stagnation. Remaining in them out of loyalty or comfort is costly. Progress requires the courage to step away from environments that no longer match the direction you are moving. Change in environment often precedes change in results. People are among the most powerful environmental forces. Attitudes transfer, standards spread, beliefs multiply. Surround yourself with those who tolerate mediocrity, and excellence will feel extreme. Surround yourself with those who pursue growth, and discipline becomes normal. This is not judgment, it is influence in motion. Your physical environment matters as well. Order supports clarity. Chaos feeds distraction. What you see daily affects how you think. A cluttered space encourages scattered focus. A structured space invites intention. Small environmental adjustments can produce large behavioral shifts. Information is environment too. What you read, watch, and listen to shapes your mental landscape. Constant exposure to negativity trains the mind to expect limitation. Exposure to growth-oriented ideas trains the mind to seek possibility. The mind reflects its inputs. Guard them carefully. Comfort is one of the most dangerous environmental forces. When comfort dominates, urgency disappears. Growth slows. Challenge fades. A supportive environment does not remove difficulty, it encourages effort. Progress thrives where standards are high and excuses are unnecessary. Environment also influences identity. Over time, you become aligned with what surrounds you. This alignment can elevate or diminish you. When your environment supports your goals, effort feels lighter. When it contradicts your goals, progress feels like resistance. Responsibility includes environmental control. You may not choose where you start, but you choose what you allow to continue. Accepting an environment that weakens you is a silent decision against your future. Strength requires boundaries. Transformation often begins with removal before addition. Removing distractions, negative influences, and limiting routines creates space for growth. Once space exists, improvement accelerates. Environment either amplifies effort or drains it. Environment shapes destiny because it shapes behavior, and behavior shapes outcomes. Protect your surroundings. Elevate your influences. Align your environment with the future you are committed to creating, and destiny will follow the direction you design. Fear is a signal, not a stop sign, and it appears precisely at the edge of growth, never at the center of comfort. The presence of fear does not mean danger, it often means expansion. Every meaningful step forward triggers resistance from the mind, because the mind is designed to protect familiarity, not progress. If you wait for fear to disappear before acting, you will wait forever. Most people misinterpret fear as a warning to retreat, but fear is often confirmation that you are moving beyond old limits. Comfort creates stagnation. Fear introduces possibility. The absence of fear usually signals that nothing new is being attempted. Growth demands uncertainty, and uncertainty awakens fear. Fear originates in imagination. It thrives on unanswered questions and imagined outcomes. Rarely is fear rooted in present reality. Action brings clarity. The moment you move, fear begins to weaken. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the refusal to obey it. Every step forward teaches the mind that fear does not equal failure. Avoidance strengthens fear. Each retreat confirms the belief that fear is dangerous. Confrontation dismantles it. When you face what you fear, you discover that the mind exaggerated the threat. Strength grows not from feeling safe, but from proving to yourself that you can move despite discomfort. Fear tests commitment. It separates intention from action. Anyone can desire change, but fear reveals who is willing to endure the discomfort required to achieve it. Those who listen to fear remain unchanged. Those who interpret fear correctly evolve. Discipline trains fear into information. Instead of reacting emotionally, you observe fear logically. What is it signaling? Growth, transition, expansion. Fear becomes a compass pointing toward development. The direction that frightens you most is often the direction you need to explore. Confidence is built by repeated encounters with fear that do not end in catastrophe. Each experience becomes evidence. Over time, fear loses authority because experience replaces imagination. This is how resilience is built. Fear thrives in isolation. When you hesitate, it grows louder. When you move, it grows quieter. Action disrupts fear's narrative. Momentum replaces anxiety. The longer you remain still, the stronger fear becomes. Fear also reveals purpose. You are rarely afraid of things that do not matter to you. Fear often accompanies meaningful goals because the outcome matters. The presence of fear indicates investment, not weakness. Progress requires tolerance for discomfort. Waiting for perfect conditions is another form of fear disguised as logic. Conditions rarely become perfect. Action creates conditions. Fear fades as competence grows. Fear does not deserve control over your direction. It deserves acknowledgement, not obedience. When you treat fear as a signal, you reclaim authority over your decisions. You stop allowing emotion to dictate action. Fear appears before breakthroughs. It stands guard at the door of growth. Those who turn away remain where they are. Those who pass through discover new capacity. Fear is temporary. Regret is permanent. Fear is a signal, not a stop sign. It is an indicator of expansion, not a verdict of failure. Move forward with awareness, not hesitation. Let fear inform you, not imprison you. Growth begins the moment you stop letting fear decide your path. Time rewards focused action, not intention, not ambition, and not scattered effort. The clock responds only to what is done consistently and deliberately. Every day offers the same hours, but outcomes differ because attention differs. Focus is what gives time direction. Without focus, time passes. With focus, time compo. Most people underestimate how powerful small, repeated actions become when guided by clarity. They search for dramatic breakthroughs while ignoring the quiet force of consistency. Time does not recognize intensity alone, it recognizes repetition. Focused effort applied daily accumulates strength, while unfocused effort dissolves into exhaustion. Distraction is the greatest thief of time. Not because it removes hours, but because it fractures energy. When attention is scattered, progress slows even when effort feels busy. Focus simplifies effort. It removes noise. It channels energy into outcomes that matter. Focused action requires choice. You cannot pursue everything and expect excellence. Progress demands elimination. When you choose what to ignore, focus strengthens. The disciplined mind protects attention because it understands that attention is life's most valuable resource. Time magnifies whatever you feed it. Feed it clarity and it produces results. Feed it confusion and it multiplies chaos. This is why early habits matter. What you practice daily becomes your future. Time has no preference. It rewards patterns. Patience is often misunderstood as waiting. True patience is persistent action without immediate reward. Focused individuals continue even when results are delayed. They trust the process because their actions are aligned with purpose. Over time, effort becomes evidence. Momentum builds slowly and reveals itself suddenly. This creates the illusion of
overnight success.
In reality, time has been recording every disciplined action. When results finally appear, they are simply time paying its debt. Focused action sharpens skill. Repetition under clarity improves efficiency. What once required effort becomes instinct. This is how mastery forms. Time recognizes those who stay with a craft long enough to refine it. Consistency eliminates the need for motivation. When action becomes routine, progress becomes reliable. Focused routines reduce resistance. The mind stops debating and starts executing. Time also exposes half-hearted effort. Inconsistency produces frustration. Jumping between goals resets momentum. Focused individuals understand that staying with one direction long enough creates leverage. Environment either supports focus or erodes it. A distracted environment weakens intention. Focus thrives where boundaries exist. Protecting time requires discipline. Time rewards focused action because it compounds effort into results. Attention aligned with purpose transforms days into progress. Focus determines whether time becomes an enemy or an ally. Self-mastery is the highest power because the person who can command their own thoughts, emotions, and actions is never truly controlled by circumstances. Power over the world begins with power over the self, and without it, every external victory is fragile. A mind without discipline is easily distracted, easily discouraged, and easily defeated. But a mind under command becomes LM in chaos and focused under pressure. Most people spend their lives trying to control outcomes while ignoring the source of all outcomes, their inner state. They react instead of choose. They blame instead of adjust. They wait instead of act. Self-mastery reverses this pattern. It replaces reaction with intention. It replaces impulse with direction. When you master yourself, you no longer drift through life responding to events. You shape events through deliberate action. Emotions are powerful, but unmanaged emotions are dangerous. Anger clouds judgment. Fear weakens resolve. Comfort dulls ambition. Self-mastery does not suppress emotion, it governs it. It allows you to feel fully without being ruled blindly. Emotional control is not coldness, it is clarity. It is the ability to pause, assess, and choose the response that serves your long-term purpose rather than your short-term relief. Habits are the visible evidence of self-mastery or its absence. Your daily routines either